Hello and welcome to all of you who are here for the very first time, and also welcome back to those of you who are returning. My name is Elise, and as a makeup artist who has the pleasure of doing online Zoom makeup consultations with women over 50 across the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege of meeting and working with some truly delightful, spirited women. Many of these women needed answers to some really perplexing makeup challenges they faced, so stay tuned because today I'll share with you the answers to some of their questions, because I have a hunch that many of you are in the same boat and maybe have experienced several of these same challenges. Well, all right, let's jump right in. Maggie recently got in touch with me because she was soon going to launch an online interior design business and wanted to look more professional. Kathleen recently joined an Armenian folk dancing group and needed to wear makeup when they performed on stage. And Gina needed some answers to some frustrating changes she was experiencing, including watering eyes and thinning lips. So let's first take a look at Gina's challenge of watering eyes, and we'll get to thinning lips a little bit later on in the video. Gina was the mother of the bride and knew she would be absolutely awash in a flood of tears from the moment her daughter first walked down the aisle. She did have waterproof mascara, but she wondered how she could possibly keep her eyeliner in place. Well, fortunately, there are two makeup products that can come to the rescue. One is called Duraline from the brand Inglot, and the other is Aquaseal from Makeup Forever. These two products can transform any powder eyeshadow into waterproof eyeliner. First, dip a brush into the eyeshadow that you want to use as eyeliner. Then put a drop of this product onto the back of your hand and then dip the brush into the gel and apply. It dries quickly and does not smudge. Then be sure to clean the brush immediately so the product doesn't harden the bristles and make the brush unusable. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Duraline or Aquaseal can also be added to lipstick to turn it into blush. Well, challenge number 2 came from Diana, and perhaps you've experienced her challenge as well. She could never get her makeup to stick to her nose. Well, this is definitely a common problem due to 3 factors: oiliness, skin texture, and the way skin on the nose interacts with makeup products. Since our nose tends to produce more oil than other areas of the face, it can easily cause makeup to slide off or separate. The nose also has larger pores and can be more textured, so it's harder for makeup to adhere to the skin. Here are 3 techniques to solve this problem. Technique number 1 involves these steps. First, exfoliate the skin on the nose. Exfoliating dead skin cells creates a smoother surface for makeup to adhere to. 2 good products that can be used to exfoliate the nose are Elemis Resurfacing Pads or Thayer's Blemish Clearing Pads. My exfoliator of choice is Tatcha's The Rice Polish. Well, I've already used my Tatcha product, so I'll go to step 2 of this first technique. And that step is to use a matte face primer or eye primer on the nose. I'll use my Makeup by Mario Master Eye Prep and Set Eye Primer. This makes sense to use eye primer because one of the purposes of eye primer is to block the oil from your eyelids and keep it from disturbing your eyeshadow. So I'm going to just pat it on so I do a good job of covering that area. Or instead of face or eye primer, you can also use hairspray. All you need to do is spray the hairspray directly onto a dry sponge and then pat it onto your nose and let it dry. Next, stamp a minimal amount of either foundation or concealer onto your nose with a dry sponge. I'm going to go ahead and put some concealer on my sponge. And then I'm just going to stamp it in, and I'm going to press so it really gets into the skin. And since my nose gets very shiny, this really helps with that problem as well. Next, apply a second coat of hairspray onto the nose and then pat on powder. Now you can certainly use a brush or a sponge to do this, but you don't want to do this. You just want to pat it in. Now I'm going to remove these products so we can go on to technique number 2. And you can see I now have a very red nose once again. Technique number 2 is similar but slightly different because we'll be using setting spray rather than hairspray, and we'll be using a long-wearing foundation like Estee Lauder's Double Wear or Dermablend. First, exfoliate, which I've already done, then apply a matte primer on the nose. I'll use Benefit's Professional Face Primer. And again, I'm just going to pat it in. Next comes a light dusting of translucent matte powder. I'm using Maybelline's banana powder as I did earlier. And then I'm just going to pat this on with a sponge. This is a dry sponge using a side that I haven't used for anything else yet. Next, I'll spray a dry sponge with setting spray and tap that on my nose. And I'll be using Urban Decay's All Nighter. Now it's important to let this dry before going on to the next step, so I have to take a moment to do that. Then apply a long-wearing foundation such as Dermablend or Estee Lauder Double Wear by tapping it on with your finger or a sponge. I'm going to go ahead and use the Good Apple foundation from KVD. Just going to pat it on with my finger. And then pat a second layer of setting spray onto the nose. And then the final step is to apply a light dusting of the Mineral Veil powder from Hourglass. I must say this process definitely covers up the redness on my nose as well. I'm going to remove the products that I used for this second technique so we can move on to the third technique. Once again, I look a little bit like Rudolph. Well, the third technique is a little simpler, so you might want to try this one first to see if this slightly easier version might work for you. Once again, begin by exfoliating the nose. Next, apply eye primer and then apply a light coat of foundation or concealer. Again, I'm just patting it. And boy, when I first put it on, I can sure see the pores before it blends in. Woo! Then a light dusting of translucent powder. And then we can conclude by patting on some setting spray. And this time, I'm just going to leave this on. Now, on to challenge number 3. Jean asked about makeup brushes. She wanted to know which are the best brushes to use. Well, there are definitely some pretty good drugstore brushes out there, but I personally feel it's a really good idea to invest in a few better quality brushes since they'll last longer and often do perform better. Here are some of my very favorites. For eyebrow powder application, I love Dalton's Eyebrow Eyeliner Brush since it's a little denser or thicker, which means more product can be applied more quickly and more easily. And I will never be without my Sigma E25 brushes for powder eyeshadow application in the crease. This brush is a perfect shape and width to fit into the crease area perfectly. My go-to brush for blush is a Sephora 56 brush. And although I'm not usually a fan of double-ended brushes due to the challenge of storing them, I am absolutely in love with this brush because of its shape and the quality of its soft bristles. It's Makeup by Mario's F4 brush. I use a larger end for foundation and the smaller end to contour, or the smaller end can also be used to apply blush. And if you're looking for a great brush for nose contouring, be sure to check out Patrick Ta's Major Sculpt Dual-Ended Precision Brush. One end is thinner for applying contour, and the other end is the perfect size for blending it out. Before we dive into challenge number 4, I hope that if you're enjoying today's video and finding it helpful, you'll let YouTube know by tapping that thumbs up symbol. And please also do subscribe before you leave today if you haven't already done so. Thank you. Well, challenge number 4 came to me from Paula. She said that she felt like she was already wearing a lot of makeup and asked if she really needed to use a face primer. Well, my answer is a decisive, it depends. Here's what primer can do. Since it provides a barrier between your skin and makeup, your makeup won't seep into your skin, which can make your makeup look cakey. It also gives makeup richer color and longer wear. So if you're experiencing hot flashes, have oily skin, or live in or will be traveling to an area of hot, humid weather where makeup can easily experience a meltdown, a mattifying face primer can really save the day. And if you have very dry skin, a moisturizing primer can add some welcomed additional moisture. Some good mattifying primers include Benefit's Porefessional Matte Primer, Milani's Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Smoothing Primer, and Maybelline's Prime Blur and Pore Minimizing Primer. Two good moisturizing primers are No. 7's Airbrush Away Primer and Maybelline's Face Studio Master Primer Hydrate Plus Smooth Primer. And I particularly love this moisturizing primer from makeup artist Eve Pearl. And if you have a favorite mattifying or moisturizing primer, please share it with us in the comment section below because it's always great to hear what's working wonderfully for you. As always, I'll include links to all the products that I'm mentioning today in the description box below, and many of them will also appear in the YouTube shopping list directly under the video. Now, unfortunately, as I've mentioned before, the YouTube shopping list doesn't always include all of the products, but it will include many of them. Well, recently I had a question from Joyce, and this was her challenge. She wanted to know how to get good coverage for her skin that didn't end up looking too heavy or cakey, and she also wanted to know how to add a touch of glow. Well, the first thing I'd recommend to eliminate a cakey look is to tap over your foundation with a very slightly dampened makeup sponge. This will pick up any excess product which can cause makeup to look cakey, and it will also shear out the foundation slightly and add more moisture. I'm going to apply foundation to one side of my face and then tap a slightly damp sponge over the foundation. Now this is a medium coverage foundation, but it's also buildable. And I'm also not putting it under my eye area, because the fewer layers we have there, the better, and I use concealer and corrector under my eyes rather than foundation. I'm going to apply just a little bit more, so it's a little bit of a heavier coverage. I am always surprised every time I put this foundation on because it is really excellent. And now I'm going to take my dampened makeup sponge and simply pat it over that side of my face. And I'm just pressing it in. This also helps the foundation really meld to the skin so it looks more skin-like. And you can probably see how it's making my face look a little bit brighter because the moisture is just adding some beautiful softness to the foundation. Another option to reduce cakiness and add some glow involves a 3-letter word, and that word is mix. Mix in a very small amount of another product with your foundation, such as moisturizer, highlighter, or facial oil. Or, instead of using foundation all over your face, you can also try mixing a tiny bit of these products in with an excellent concealer, such as Natasha Denona's High Glam Concealer, which provides really outstanding coverage. I'm going to go ahead and mix a tiny bit of Say Beauty's Glow Gel with my High Glam Concealer and apply it on the other side of my face. So here's my concealer and my highlighter. Just going to mix them together. And this is going to go on this side of my face. And I think you can see the glow that this produces by mixing in just a little bit of that Say Beauty product. Now, since I'm using concealer, which provides more coverage and is a little bit heavier, I'm absolutely going to take my makeup sponge and go back over it. Let's see if we can see a difference between each side of my face. This is the side of my face with just foundation, and this is the side of my face with my concealer mixed with the Say Beauty highlighter gel. Now I just mixed in a tiny bit of the highlighter gel. You could certainly always mix in a little bit more. In fact, I'm going to take a little bit more and just tap it here. This particular highlighter gel just blends in so beautifully with foundation or concealer. So I think you can see some additional glow there. And by the way, if you like the look of blush with some glow, try adding a touch of highlighter to your cream or liquid blush, and you'll create a really soft focus, glowy blush look. I'm going to go ahead and do this by mixing a little bit of this Say Beauty Glowy Gel with my Tower 28 Cream Blush in the shade Party Hour. Here I have the two products, and then you can see what happens when I mix in a little bit of the highlighter. And I'm going to tap in a little bit more of the blush with it. And here you get a little bit more of the blush with highlighter. As I mentioned earlier, in addition to watering eyes, Gina also had a major challenge with her lips. She wondered if there was any way that her thinning lips could look larger without looking outlandish. She also wanted to know what she could do about her lips starting to look more downturned. Well, 2 lip products and a specific application technique can make a big difference in helping thinning lips look larger. First, take a small amount of contour on a very small brush and apply it just under the center bottom of the lower lip line. This creates a shadow which makes our lips look larger. Our lip liner can also help to increase the footprint of our lips. Normally we apply lip liner along our lip line, but to make our lips look a little larger, we simply want to apply that lip liner along the outer edge of our lips. Now, this may seem like it wouldn't make much difference at all, but just by increasing the outline of our lips by that small amount, we can definitely see a difference and it doesn't look overdone. Now, I'm not going to do the bottom right now, but we will be doing that in a moment. As we get older, some of us also begin to experience downturned lips. This is primarily caused by loss of collagen and elastin, which leads to sagging and volume loss, as well as weakening facial muscles and bone structure changes, which also contribute to this challenge. But Here is a wonderfully easy fix. We're going to only focus on the upper part of our bottom lip to do this. The tools we'll need are concealer and lip liner. What we want to do is make our lip line go upward sooner. To do this, we'll use concealer to literally erase the upper part of our lip, but we'll only do this on one side of my lower lip. Can you see how I've erased the upper part of that lip line? Next, I'll take my lip liner, but I'll go upward toward my top lip before I reach that area with the concealer. On the other side, I went ahead and followed my natural lip line upward. Can you see how this side of my lip looks more lifted? I'm going to take a moment to make my lips match, and I'll be right back. Now I'll add a touch of lip gloss, which will bring more light to my lips and make them look larger. And today's final question comes from Marcia. She wanted to know how to create a finished makeup look that really pulled together a whole look and made it look more professional. Well, to overcome this challenge, we'll need two products: a slightly dampened makeup sponge and a high-end finishing powder from Hourglass, for which there's unfortunately no lower-cost drugstore dupe. First, I'll gently tap around my entire face with a dampened makeup sponge, which picks up any excess product as we talked about earlier, and it also helps blend the products together. Then I'm going to apply Hourglass Ambient Light Finishing Powder over my entire face. This product acts like a filter for our face since it blurs our skin slightly and it also gives a subtle glow. Now, since I don't have a full face of makeup actually on, or blush on both sides of my face, we're not going to get the same result we usually do, but I think you can see how beautiful and subtle this looks. And one final finishing touch that can also create a stunning finished look is to spray some of Tatcha's Luminous Dewy Skin Mist over that slightly dampened makeup sponge and then pat it gently onto the tops of our cheekbones. I absolutely love this product, and it's so easy to use for a beautiful finished look. If you'd like to check out some other top makeup artist tips, be sure to watch this video, 6 Genius Celebrity Makeup Artist Hacks Perfect for Over 50. You'll find a link for this video in the pinned comments section below, as well as in the description box. And if you'd enjoy getting together with me for an online Zoom makeup session like I recently did with Maggie and Gina, just drop me a line at boomerandbeyondbeauty@gmail.com and we will schedule a time. Until we see each other again, I wish you good health and happiness, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Take care.